Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And this is our non-spoiler review for Avatar, The Way of Water.
Why do you come to us?
I just want to keep my family safe.
Well, I guess it's time to go back to Pandora because we are just coming home from seeing Avatar, The Way of Water on the big screen in 3D, and I don't know, it's not like I ever doubted James Cameron. I just think that it's been so long. I kind of walked into this going, we're going to recapture the magic that was on screen all those years ago, right?
13 years ago. I mean, it's been, and I was surprised to even hear, too, that this is James Cameron's, the last movie he did before this was Avatar. So I'm like, he hasn't, besides working on Avatar, it's just been Avatar for the last 13 years. So there's a lot of anticipation. There's a lot of buildup. There's been there's going to be 2 more movies. No, there's going to be 3 more movies. No, there's going to be 4 more movies. And this is just the first one, and it's just the setup. And it's a lot. There's a lot to unwrap with this, and it's going to be really hard, I think, to go through this without any spoilers. But we're going to try.
We're going to try, and by no spoilers, we mean no spoilers if you have already watched the trailers, because we do refer back to the trailers. So if we know there's some people out there who like to kind of stay in the dark as far as like trailer goes before they go into a film, and that's really great. I love that for you. But if we're going to refer to the trailer and you haven't seen it yet, then that may serve as a spoiler for you. So just, if you want to continue on with our review, you have been warned.
And if you like our reviews, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos that come out on our channel.
First things first, I think we need to talk about the runtime. It is at a spicy 3 hours and either 12 minutes or 20 minutes.
And I do have to admit,
it's long.
There are some moments where I was sitting in the theater on some of the slower parts of the movie and going, how long has it been? They get a lot. They do get a lot done of character building, storytelling, background, but they do use that full 3 hours and 13 minutes.
It's either 12 minutes or 20 minutes. I can't remember which one, but it's a long movie. So just plan accordingly. If you are picking seats at the theater and you know you need to frequently go and get up and use the bathroom, which I totally get. Maybe think of an aisle seat so it gives you a quick exit and entrance to the film, so you don't have to miss out too much when you run out and run back in. With that said, I really understand why they had to do the 3 hours and 12, because first of all, it's been many years. You said 13 years.
13 years.
So I feel like they have a lot to kind of establish right at the beginning. At the same time, this is not the kind of movie. This is not the sequel where you can just go back in without seeing the first Avatar ever. We don't really say this about many films, but this is one of them. You absolutely need to watch the first Avatar before you go into this one, because they do a light recap, but they don't do a full recap. So if you're brand new to the Avatar franchise, I feel like you're going to be a little bit lost and you're not going to understand what is happening. But if you have seen Avatar, if you've rewatched it recently, you are good.
Yeah, there's just a lot of topics, and you're like, wait a second, what happened to this character? How did this happen? And it's going to help a lot if you first rewatch that first movie.
Specifically to the Sigourney Weaver character, obviously Jake being the main character, but I think everybody remembers that main storyline, and then Stephen Lang's character. So you just kind of want to watch it just as a refresher if you've watched it already. And plus, it's a great film, so why not rewatch it? So I feel like in the beginning, it did have a slow start, because they had to take the time to establish, not just to reintroduce the main characters that we have already met in Avatar 1, but there are a ton of new characters that they have to introduce as well.
Yeah, and then so having to do that kind of twice and refresh from the last movie, it does kind of give this movie a little bit of a sluggish start, because it is kind of exposition heavy, and I feel like if this movie would have come out maybe a few years earlier, so people still had the first movie fresh in their minds, it would have been a lot easier to cut some of that and then trim down some of this big 3 hours and 12 minutes of this film. Yeah. But once they kind of get all of the necessity out and they're like, okay, this is what happens, this is the track that we're on, and now go, that's when the story does pick up a lot more.
Yeah, especially when they introduce, with Jake, there's family members that we are meeting for the first time because a lot of time has passed. And it was great seeing kind of that family dynamic and how it works within like the Forest Na'vi and their tribe. And then, as you all know, seeing the trailer and also just thinking about storytelling wise, that there's going to be a threat that is introduced. And that kind of takes up roughly like the end of the first act, maybe early second act. They kind of introduce the threat, the antagonist of the film. We already know who that is, the big baddie, but coming back in a slightly different way. Don't want to ruin it for you in case you haven't watched the trailers, but if you have, then you already know. Unfortunately, have to then, to keep everybody else safe, explore other regions of Pandora. And I think once we got to that, for me, it reignited what I enjoyed so much about the original Avatar. And I mean, by the way, the visuals, right from the get-go, you are going to be just in for such a treat. It is just a visual masterpiece. Like, feast your eyes for the 3 hours plus, because it is just, every single scene is so beautiful. But I will say that third act was excellent. Like, for me, this movie kind of went on a very steady trajectory of like, we're settling, we're establishing, we're moving forward, we're going to introduce the conflict, and then we're going to move you into the third act, and you're going to be glued, and it's like you don't even want to get up to go to the bathroom by the time we get to the third act.
And that's something that I really did enjoy too, because on that build, they did something that was really good about the first movie, which is exploring Pandora. And seeing how we already got a little bit of that from the first movie, they now are able to move into an entirely new area of the planet and be able to explore the whole, just like our planet here, we have things that are on land, but there's just a whole new world that is underwater. The fact that they just get to introduce all of these different creatures, all of these different animals, this entire new ecosystem, and that's what's really fun about this movie, is to explore this entirely new underwater planet that they have here on Pandora. And it is beautiful. The way that the water moves, the way that the creatures moves, there's moments that you're just like, can I actually touch that?
Because it's in 3D.
Because the textures and especially when things are actually wet, and adds that extra layer of texture to it, made it look really, really good. Now, I do have to admit, having to wear 3D glasses the entire time, there's moments that, you have to lift up the glasses and like massage the bridges of your nose, and I feel bad for people who actually have to wear glasses underneath with the 3D glasses on. And there are moments to where my brain I don't know if it's the fact that my brain could keep up with it at the same time, or if it's the fact that there's just some things that computers can't quite do yet. And there are moments to where I felt like I was watching a cutscene.
It's the high frame rate.
It's the high frame rate. And I think, kind of like how we see high definition, and it looks kind of like a soap opera for different movies that are now coming out in high definition. But are moments to where your brain is just like, wait, that doesn't quite look right. But then it does. My brain was able to catch back in. And there was a moment too that I was actually starting to get a little like, like a little motion sickness.
Oh, for me that was there was a part with Stephen Lang's character when he came on screen for the first time in this film, and they were in an aircraft or a ship, but it was kind of like. And the direction, like with the camera, it was not really, because it was smooth, but they were rotating and moving. And at one point I was like, oh God, is it the glasses or is it, So, but that was really, because I was worried that this is why I never really liked 3D movies, because I always felt a little queasy afterwards. But that was really the only moment that happened. And it was because the way that scene and the way they filmed it, they were kind of rotating. It was cool looking. It was just like, I was like, and I'm moving with it and I feel a little queasy. But that moment passed, and like Dustin said, the underwater stuff is absolutely gorgeous. I think that is my favorite part, visually and story-wise. When we got to the Water Na'vi and we got to meet them, It's so fantastic. I was like, oh, I could live here for like 4 more hours.
Yes.
It's really fantastic. I felt like I definitely want to explore more with that. I heard some commentary from the other people who have seen the movie already, like their social reaction, and they were saying that there wasn't enough action. I'm not sure if we saw the same movie. There were plenty of action. Now, it doesn't kick off action right from the beginning. They kind of, the way it's placed, it's when it's necessary, when it's meaningful, when it makes an impact. But again, as this movie ramps up, they utilize the action scenes so well. It is so good where you are, there are stakes and they're high. And you overdo because we're in the water, so I'm just going to talk about this. For example, when you're watching Titanic, it's also a James Cameron film. When you're watching Titanic and you're seeing the passengers, or Rose and Jack, are doing like they got to go underwater to get to other parts of, you know, the sinking ship, and they hold their breath, and do you do the thing where you go, and you kind of, like, just involuntarily you do it with them? I noticed I did that several times in this film. So, I was immersed in this film. That third act is so excellent, and I really enjoyed it despite the long runtime.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the things that really did keep me into it is a lot of the social commentary that they had kind of underneath the surface of this whole movie is the fact that, yeah, when they go from the way that they treat different people, the way that they treat different tribes, the way that they treat different what is that called? Migrants. They had a lot of different themes that we can have a really strong connection to because we see it so much here in our real life. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's going to be really nice about this movie, is to be able to explore a lot more of the social commentary. And it's something to be able to see in a new planet, in a new environment like Pandora, that makes it just, you know, you can identify with it.
Yes.
Seeing it in a different setting. And I really enjoyed it. And that's something that actually did pull me in once we went in and visited the water Na'vi.
Basically, Na'vi good, Sky people bad. I also want to bring attention to Zoe Saldana's performance. She is just captures every emotional beat so well. It's so believable that I fully went into this movie not thinking it was going to get me emotionally. Like, I knew I was going to be visually very impressed. Like, visually it is a masterpiece. But I didn't really take into account that I was going to connect this much with the characters and the story. And I think for me, I owe it to her, because she got me. The way she
was so intense.
She was so intense. The way she made little growls, and her movement, and her vocal cues are just so on point to exactly, if I was in that moment, if I was her, this is the way I would act too. And it's so raw, and I just love her in this role. So with that said, I do feel like, you know, I want to go back to the runtime one more time. There are a couple of things I feel like towards the beginning that we could have trimmed out just a little bit that would have still had the exact same payoff. Because I really feel like a lot of the connection development really happened in the third act. There was a lot of like introductory and setup in 1 and 2, and we could have cut a lot of that just to maybe not, it's not at 3 hours and 12, maybe it would have been like 3 hours. But other than that, it's a really good film, and I can't believe, like, you know what's that saying? Like, just when you thought you were out and they pull you back in, it's like back into Pandora I go.
I do have to agree with you. There are some parts where you kind of do look at your watch and you're kind of like, wow, the 3 hours is starting to take its toll. And there are some, but once you do kind of fall into that, this is starting to get a little slow, they do bring you back in. But overall, Wendy, what is your rating for this movie?
I mean, I knew visually going in, the bar was set really high for this movie, and I would say it exceeded my expectation. I really enjoyed a lot of the basically not a lot, but all of the underwater, anything having to do with water, all the scenes. Like, you guys are going to be, how many times did I during the movie, I was like, oh my god, like out loud, I mean not loudly, you know, like a stage whisper.
She's that like, woman in the theater. Oh my god!
Not me. No. Don't start rumors. No, but like a visible, just like, oh my, just an audible, like, oh my gosh. I can't believe I'm seeing this. So it is stunning. I enjoy the story. It has a slow start, but the payoff is excellent. And now I'm fully invested, and I can't wait to see the next chapter. Just please don't wait another 13 years to give us the next one. But I think they filmed them all kind of together, right?
Yeah, I think they filmed them all together at once. That's what took so long.
I think that's actually really smart. So it's going to feel really cohesive, and for us, the audience, we don't have to wait as long. This, for the rating, if you want to check out the movie couple rating, is listed below in the video description. And it's absolutely a catch it opening night. Also, you must see this in 3D. I know many of you probably are like us, where we're a little apprehensive when it comes to 3D, but this is 3D done right.
Yes.
This is it, and we got to see it in Adobe Theater, and so the sound, the picture, everything was excellent.
I loved it. I thought this was a great, stunning, beautiful. I do find that there were some parts that were a little slow. I thought the beginning was a little bit like exposition heavy, but overall I did enjoy it. I thought it was beautiful, and I'm going to give it a check it out.
Well, you guys, that's it for our non-spoiler review for Avatar: The Way of Water. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts, non-spoiler only, in the comment section below once you've seen the film. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.